Hi everyone, this is John. Welcome back to another episode of our weekly the governments, people, organizations and the region as a whole. We will try to explain the issues, break down controversies surrounding them and try to have some external perspectives from experts and people.
In this edition of the Subcontinent, we look into India's military presence in the Maldives. And we will explore the future of India's automobile industry.
With its thousands of islands stretching hundreds of kilometers into the Indian Ocean and straddling crucial sea lanes through which 40% of the world's fuel shipments flow, Maldives has always been a stage for strategic wrestling between both New Delhi and Beijing. For most of its independent history, since 1965, the South Asian archipelagic China as both try to turn their tide in their direction in the Indian Ocean region.
Is aggravated by Sino-Indian competition for influence in the Maldives. The island nation needs to upgrade its military capabilities through the acquisition of modern armaments, but apparently lack resources. Situated at the epicenter of a game between China and India for dominance of the Indian Ocean, it has to make the best use of its strategic geopolitical leverage. India has a long-standing relationship with neighboring the Maldives, but recently it is under threat amid a surge in anti-Indian sentiment. Maldivians have taken to social media and hit the streets to protest against India's military presence in their island nation, calling for Indian troops' unconditional and immediate departure. They describe it as a possible threat to their national sovereignty, with conspiracy theories circulating that the presence is a prelude to Indian annexation of Maldivian territory. Further narrowing India's earlier edge, China has made new inroads into the country via funding big infrastructure projects, including major island-connecting bridges. Massive constructions in the island of Faidu-Finolu, leased until 2016 by Beijing from the Maldivian government for $4 million, have also created rumors that China is establishing a military base there.
Widely perceived as pro-Indian, President Ibrahim Mohammed Soleh was elected with nearly 60% of the votes in 2018. So Abdullah Yamin Abdul Gayoom, who had prioritized closer ties with China. However, there is still speculation that Soleh's government is quietly trying to rebuild ties to China to financially assist its COVID-devastated economy.
India considers the countries in the Indian Ocean, including the Maldives, as part of its sphere of influence. To maintain a geopolitical balance, India has permanently stationed 2 helicopters and a Dornier surveillance aircraft in the Maldives under a long-standing bilateral defense pact. India has also helped establish a constellation of coastal radars aligned with its own grid on all 26 Maldivian atolls to monitor approaching sea aircraft. But the Indian reconnaissance aircraft and choppers deployed, along with the military personnel who operate them, is increasingly viewed with suspicion in the Maldives. Maldivians say no external power is allowed to have forces or facilities at any military base across the country's strategically located atolls following the withdrawal of British troops in 1976, nothing that only India continues to have a boots-on-the-ground presence. As a goodwill gesture to ease tensions, the Indian Navy has recently said that it had provided the Maldives National Defense Force with a Dornier aircraft as per an intergovernmental agreement. The aircraft will report based in the northern Maldivian base of Hani Madu and nominally be operated, commanded and controlled by the Maldivian military, with the Indian government bearing the aircraft's operating costs.
Now, for some insight, we are joined by Mr. Muad Mohammad Zaki, who is a senior member of Maldivian Democratic Party while in exile. He's a former political prisoner and currently a political activist and not part of any political party. Mr. Zaki, welcome to the Subcontinent. So, what is India's strategy to counter China's influence in Maldives?
Well, before the 2018 presidential elections, some of the leaders of the Maldivian Democratic Party, who are very close with President Modi, had actually already started various online campaigns, basically targeting Chinese investments negatively. This has actually created fear and suspicion in Chinese investments in the country. That was followed by the Indian government's full backing of the Maldivian Democratic Party led coalition in the Maldives to run against the pro-China President Yamin's government. And after that, India has seen, India is seen also to be received the backing of Saudi Arabia and the United States in plans for the Maldives. From the time the opposition won the elections, the Indian military has actually increased its presence in the country from north to south drastically. So this is a concern for a country like Maldives because it's a Muslim country. And we also know the ongoing Kashmiri occupation by India. So this has caused a lot of fear in the country on India's ambitions in the country.
Okay, and what is China's approach to increase its influence in Maldives?
I do not think that China needs to do much other than to sit and watch. All they need to do is to wait and see, because no matter how much loans that India gives the government, the reality of the situation is that in times like COVID-19, no matter how much foreign loans are injected into the economy at the moment to keep it afloat, it is just a short-term solution. At the moment, the government does not seem to have any long-term solutions. The Indian government has taken full control of full advantage of our country's politicians' lack of understanding on international politics and military strategy. We must remind ourselves that the Maldives had only become a multi-party system in 2008, which is not long ago. Therefore, our politicians have not had the time to understand the big political backdoor games that international politics has in play. Nevertheless, China knows very well that if everything else fails, be it this government or the next government, the Maldives will go back to China for help because China has proven when it comes to development, it does carry through, even if there are questions to be asked on specific investments.
All right, Mr. Zaki, what is the result of this rivalry for people of the Maldives?
The supporters from both sides of politics has seen that this foreign interference in our country's domestic affairs has wasted a lot of our government's time that could have been actually spent better in planning for the COVID-19 impact on our economy. Supporters of the ruling coalition parties has also been voicing their concern over India's growing military activities in the country and the worsening economic situation. However, they are not given actually much satisfactory answers to the party members. I think this is one of the reasons why the Election Commission had recently announced that the party membership of the ruling coalition party, Maldivian Democratic Party, has been decreasing, while the opposition party's party membership has actually been increasing. I think the Indian government seems to be the only one benefiting from this. They are effectively now controlling our foreign policy as well. At the OIC or any other international platforms, the Maldives seem to be busy defending India instead of finding much needed assistance for Maldivian families, small businesses, homeowners and renters. Everyone is suffering in the Maldives.
Mr. Take a look at how the global media has covered this situation, and then we can continue.
India has taken a lead over China in their contest for influence in the Maldives. New Delhi would fund the implementation of the Greater Malay Connectivity Project through a $100 million grant and a $400 million line of credit. The project is a 6.7-kilometer long bridge and causeway link that will connect the Maldivian capital Malé with the neighboring islands of Vilingili, Gulifau and Thilafushi. It also includes the building of a port at Gulifau and an industrial zone in Thilafushi. Unlike a similar initiative 7 years ago, new framework for cooperation between the US and Maldivian Departments of Defense went through without objection from India, a leading player in the latest version of the South Asian Great Game in which China, Japan and the US are contesting for influence. India is also part of Quad, an alliance that includes Australia, Japan and the US. They have held security dialogues and military exercises spanning the Pacific and Indian Ocean.
All right, thank you for staying with us. Now, do you think the people or government of Maldives favor one over the other?
I do not think the Maldives government or the people really favor one over another. The Maldivians are loving people. We love people from all countries. We want to get along with all countries except for apartheid Israel. We wish India and China both invest in our countries together. There are plenty of space for both to actually invest in where we all can benefit together. However, India bringing in their military instead of infrastructure projects, then it's not good for the government or the people or the country. The current situation is that once we had let the Trojan horse into the country, we are now stuck with them. There's no easy solution to the current situation. That's the scary part. Let's say in the future, if the government asks the Indian military to leave the country, will they leave? I don't think so.
Mr. Zaki, thank you so much for being on our show. And viewers, people on social media see this situation.
Using the hashtag #IndiaOut, Muson Bahoru believes the presence of the Indian military in Maldives is unconstitutional and completely illegitimate. Ahmed Azan suggests that people need to show their aversion to the Indian military presence in the country. And regarding the tweet of Hassan Ali, although he has a positive view of India and its people, he opposes any foreign military presence in Maldives and considers it a violation to the country's sovereignty.
Driving is not for the faint of heart in India, whose streets are perhaps the most dangerous ones in the world. Indian traffic drives on the left, but most of its drivers are in the middle of the road, paying little heed to the rules and doing anything they can to avoid queuing. According to a 2007 report, more than 100 people die on the roads of India. India needs to revamp its transportation and design new traffic management systems. But how?
The future of the automobile industry will probably be either electric or hybrid. Future cars will either do all the driving or the human at the helm can steer the wheel sometimes to manipulate a decision. For a country with crazy streets, air pollution and an enormously big market, it can also have unexpected social and political as well as economic consequences. Electric cars have zero emissions and self-driving cars reduce the casualties tremendously, but they are expensive and require supporting infrastructure. Creating or importing mean investment by foreign firms. This may disrupt the indigenous car manufacturing industry and even increase dependency on US technology. The Indian automobile market is so gigantic and fast flourishing that almost everybody wants to have a bit of it. Washington is more than eager to invest in the country's car market, but some believe it only aims to decrease and counter China's share in the market as part of its trade war with China. Recent trends suggest a rise in the interest among the common masses for electric cars. With such prospects for profit, who will manage to help India switch over from conventional petrol-diesel-powered cars to electric or hybrid self-driving vehicles?
Business magnate and industrial designer Elon Musk has recently said that the United States electric vehicle and clean energy company Tesla will make its entry into India in 2021. It can simply be a propaganda gimmick, as It has happened before. In 2016, Musk said that the company would launch the Tesla 3 model in India with a countrywide supercharger network. However, this has not happened. In 2018, Musk said he had plans to begin Tesla operations in India in 2019, but this too did not come to fruition.
Raucous and unruly traffic isn't the only problem in the Indian streets. In its road for the adoption of electric vehicles or self-driving cars, numerous environmental, economic and social challenges. In addition to measures aimed at elevating mundane issues such as the absence of road signs, dangerous potholes and poorly maintained footpaths, India has to build nationwide charging infrastructure. It needs high-tech battery production lines, and it must consider the supply-demand gap as well as creating a closed loop. Shortage of homegrown battery cells in India will increase the dependency on imports from Japan, China, Korea and Europe, as well as the US. Hence, the Indian government needs to incentivize indigenous manufacturers towards technologies better suited for the country's market, such as aluminium. The establishment of a robust supply chain is also crucial for automakers to make the shift feasible. Moreover, recycling stations must be set up to recover the metals from batteries to create the closed loop required for the transition to electric cars to be an environmentally sound decision. India wants over 1/3 of vehicles electric by 2030, but the goal seems fantastically out of reach unless it introduces more incentives, tax cuts or rebates that benefit all stakeholders in the process.
To learn more about this, we now have with us Mr. Paranjoy Guha Thakurta, who's an Indian author, journalist, and commentator on economic and political affairs. Welcome to the show. So, how successful do you see the auto industry in India?
Thank you for inviting me to your program, and I must say that the auto industry is in a very, very bad shape at present. I think never in the history of India's automobile industry has the situation been as bad as it is present. For the first time since the automobile industry was set up many, many decades ago, in the month of April 2020, there were no sales, zero sales of any kind of automobile, from heavy vehicles, that is trucks and lorries, to personalized vehicles, passenger cars, to buses, to even two-wheelers, motorcycles and mopeds and scooters. This has never happened before. This is the first time it's happened. And on top of it, you have the heavy vehicles, like the commercial vehicles, the trucks and the lorries and the buses. Their sales have come down much more than the sales of two-wheelers like scooters and motorcycles and mopeds. And it is not just a demand which is affecting India's automotive industry, but also the switch over to new emission norms. In a sense, the industry has gone back to where it was 4 or 5 years ago. And these are the figures. If you go to the official industry association, the Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers, you will see the numbers are there for you to check yourself. On top of all that, the insurance numbers the insurance payments have gone up. The prices of the vehicles have gone up, and banks have tightened the norm on which they give loans to individuals to buy the vehicles, or even to not just individual, to organizations and corporate entities. So a combination of all these factors, demand recession, new switch emission norms, insurance policies, the premium has gone up, increase in prices, all of this has resulted in the Indian automobile never ever crisis in the history of India's automotive industry.
Mr. Thakurta, before moving ahead with the next questions, let's see the media views regarding this problem.
To make an autonomous car safe, developers need to make it as smart as humans, at least in certain respects. To negotiate the unruly Delhi, driverless cars need a whole different level of smarts. In Western cities, traffic rules are followed, signs are obeyed, and the right of way is given, not taken. It's anything but so in Delhi and countless other Indian cities. In a country like India with a little over 1.3 billion people, any policy decision that may impact jobs appears justifiable at first blush. Why then is India insistent on introducing electric vehicles that may help unclog the air to some extent but destroy many jobs in the traditional auto sector? The most challenging part in electric vehicle manufacturing is producing lithium-ion batteries. Therefore, the government has to play an essential role in it. Only then the final price of EV will be decreased. According to a report, the price of lithium-ion battery can reduce by up to 80%. That only requires a larger volume of production. If government is unable to achieve significant battery clusters, India's plan to transition to EVs will never be fulfilled.
All right, welcome back, Mr. Thakurta. So, how much do you think politics affects this industry?
I think politics has not got that much of an impact. It is more the economic situation, the slowdown in the economy, the recession, the demand recession that is in the economy. Now, if you look at up to the end of March of 2020, for the last 2 years, we are seeing India's gross domestic product, or GDP, the rate of growth has been constantly slowing down. Then you had the pandemic, and on top of that, you had the economic lockdown, which was a very, very harsh lockdown, which started from the midnight of the 24th of March 2020. So we've seen a huge migration of people, internal migration within India. So all of these factors, the combination of factors and the economic recession has resulted in India's automobile industry being in the state that is. Now, yes, of course, everything is impacted by politics. You could argue if the government of India headed by Mr. Narendra Modi, which is who is the leader of the BJP, the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is a right-wing Hindu nationalist political party. If the lockdown was less harsh, then maybe the recession and the demand recession would have impacted the industry less. But that's a thing of the past. Automobile sales had been going down for some time, even before the pandemic and the lockdown. And the pandemic and the lockdown has resulted in things worsening very, very much, very, very badly. And as I mentioned right at the beginning, for the first time in the history of India's automobile industry, in August 2020, there were no sales, zero sales.
Mr. Thakurta, thank you so much for being with us on our show. It was very nice having you here. Now, let's see how people have reacted on social media and cyberspace.
The official Twitter account of Mint refers to Nitin Gadkari, the road transport minister, that the government plans to make India an automobile manufacturing hub in the next 5 years. Also, these two tweets of the Press Information Bureau contain more details about the minister's words and the government's plan in the field of electric vehicles, taking steps in reducing the air pollution and so on.
And that was our episode covering the rift in Maldives between India and China and the Indian automobile industry. To watch bits of our episodes and more updates, follow us on our social media platforms and make sure to give us feedback about what you think. We'll meet the same time, same day next week. Thanks for watching.